Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the LiveFitNow Podcast. My name is Vicki Brown and I am your host. Before we get on to today's conversation, first of all, I would like to thank you for choosing to listen to this episode. And also, if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do it now so that you don't miss any future episodes. And also, if you have some of your favourite episodes, please share them with your friends and family, because if you can help spread the word, you can help me grow this podcast. Thank you. And without further ado, here is the conversation. My guest today is someone who does NLP-based coaching and hypnotherapy for personal growth, and she is on a mission to help people who are committed to making a change, explore their inner excellence, and become the very best version of themselves, guiding them on their journey of self-enablement to grow in confidence and self-esteem and lead a purposeful, proactive, and fulfilled life. Her name is Vanda Varga. Welcome to the LiveFitNow Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Hey, Vicky, that was lovely. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am wonderful, thank you. So I always like just to dive straight in. Start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Let's do that then. So I'm Vanda and I am a tour guide to your mind. So I help people understand what is going on in their mind and in their brain, and what is limiting them, what is stopping them, what is not letting you get to where you want to be and lead the life that you want to lead. Because I believe that once you have the understanding, the awareness and the insight into what is actually happening in your mind, then you will be able to manage your mental fitness long term. It's about fitness, isn't it? You do the physical fitness, I do the mental fitness, match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. It's all about that, isn't it? It's about making sure that it's not just not just your body that's right, but it's your mind that's right. And when the two of them are working together, plus your gut, then everything is candies and rainbows.
And actually, I think it's very difficult to have one without the other. There's definitely a balance to be had. And I would potentially even say that you need the mind first, because it's amazing what we can achieve physically, but our mind will stop us if we're not in the right place. So it's most definitely, as you say, it's getting the balance between the two. So how did you end up doing this? What made you decide that you needed to help people with this?
Oh, I don't know what made me decide that I needed to help people in general. My background is in neuro-rehabilitation. So I've always been in a profession that's helping people. I've always been in the field of the brain and the mind and how it works. It's all based on neuroplasticity, so your brain's ability to rewire itself. And if it can rewire itself, why wouldn't we do it intentionally, the way how it suits us? So I spent 20 years in the field of neuro-rehabilitation, being a conductor, a neuro rehab specialist in conductive education, which is a method to work specifically with people with those neurological conditions like Parkinson's, stroke, MS, head injury, cerebral palsy, all the rest. And I absolutely loved it. I loved helping people understand how their bodies and their brain worked. And I loved helping people walk and talk again after they lost some functions or they haven't developed them yet. And I loved it so much. I felt that it was my purpose. This is what I was born to do, and this is the only thing I do and I can do. So this is why I just, when my back problems started appearing, I kept brushing them under the carpet and I didn't pay attention. I want to think, oh, mind over body, I'm still young, I can do this, it doesn't matter, all the rest. And I basically kept ignoring my subconscious mind talking to me through my body, telling me that you can't do this forever. And I kept ignoring it. And yes, sorry.
What happened with your back? Was there an incident or did it just happen over time?
No, being a conductor is quite a physically demanding job. So the back problem, whether it is inherited or I don't know, I developed it, probably is a combination of both. And that's the thing, you see, being a conductor, physically very demanding. When I still loved it so much, I did it with my all, literally. My body, my mind, and my soul. And that was the problem, really, because I kept ignoring my body talking to me, my subconscious talking to me. It made sure that I did pay attention, because it just kept shouting at me louder and louder and louder until it put me into bed and it made me listen, because I had a slip disc. So then I had to. I didn't really have a choice. And this is when, after a sufficient amount of pity party and licking my own wounds and feeling very sorry for myself, I had to make a decision. Was I going to end up in a wheelchair, go back to my old profession and end up in a wheelchair, or was I going to look for something else that I could transfer my field of expertise into, which was the brain, neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself. And I made a decision to not stay there, not end up in a wheelchair, but to actually do something different. And this is when I found Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP for short, which is about the mind, the brain, your brain's ability to rewire itself, neuroplasticity, so you can rewire it the way how you want it. It's literally a match made in heaven again. And then I decided to help people with their mind, with their mental fitness, and everything that comes with that.
Yeah. What a journey. I didn't know that about your earlier career. I mean, wow. Gosh, you really are the person to come to when we want to know about the brain. So can you dive a little bit more? I mean, I would imagine NLP is a term that lots of people will have heard of and perhaps have a vague idea as to what it is. But can you give us a bit of an overview as to tell us what it actually is and the way in which it can help people?
Absolutely. So NLP is basically a user guide to the brain and to the mind. Yeah. So when it comes to a human experience, we all perceive the world in very, very different ways. We all go through different life experiences, and these life experiences go through different lenses or filters, if you like. So as we go through life, we will experience everything differently. All those memories, all those experiences will be differently structured. They will be very, very subjective. And NLP is the study of that structure of how we experience the world. And it's also a study of excellence. So how can we do something the best way possible? So for that, to be able to experience the world, we need three main components. One, we need a mind to process the information that comes in from the outside world. So that's the neuro part. Yeah. We also need a language that we can use to code all the information that comes in. Yeah. And communicate with ourselves as well as with others. So there's the linguistic part. And we also need some programming part again. Yeah. So we can make sure that our mind and that language has an impact on our life, on our body. So we are able to program our mind using language in the way how we would like to. So that's what Neuro-Linguistic Programming stands for.
That's quite a lot to cover, actually, isn't it? Do you attack each of those things separately, or does it very much come together as a package when you're working with people?
It definitely comes together as a package. As we just said, there isn't one without the other. Yeah, we can't really just talk without any meaning, or we can't have a mind and not do anything with it. You know? So the three of them have to come together, and then basically NLP uses your language and the way how you use language with yourself as well as with others, and how you perceive it when it comes from the outside world, to help you build those programs and change the ones that are not working for you, and to make sure that your mind works for you the way how you want it to work for you.
So I can tell in principle that this is something that can help every single one of us, because we all have a mind. But could you potentially give us a couple of examples of people you've worked with, like the sort of issues that perhaps people decide to find out more about NLP because they realize it could be something that helps an aspect of their life?
Oh, no, okay. So how long have you got? Question. NLP isn't restricted to one part of life or one profession. So many people think that NLP is either for coaches and therapists, or it is for salespeople and politicians. It's where it gets its bad reputation from. But it isn't. NLP is actually an attitude. It's an attitude of curiosity towards life, towards learning, towards having the best of the best that you can. So NLP it does come with a set of tools, but it's not necessarily about just that. It's about having a very different outlook on life, and that can be used everywhere and anywhere. So NLP teaches you about the mind, it teaches you about communication, it teaches you about the language that you use, and it comes with other, techniques, how you can get rid of emotional luggage, how you can solve interpersonal conflicts or reduce inattention inside you, how to get rid of phobias, how to get rid of anxieties and allergies and all sort of different things. So the clients who come to me with, they come with all sort of stuff, and it can be anxiety, mild depression, feeling stuck where they are, being unhappy with their lives, shouting at the children, losing their temper, having anger issues. It can be really anything. When people come to me, they tell me that this is my problem. Can you help? And then I look at them, that's all good and well. This is just not your problem. These are symptoms of your problem, of the underlying cause that's there. And what having all these different tools in my tool bag allows me to do is to reach down into my tool bag and bring out the one that will be the right one for them. So we can explore that root cause, we can explore what the actual issue is, and have tools to solve them, get rid of them, and look into the future. So NLP is very much of a solution-based, forward-looking, outcome-focused methodology that helps you to get out of where you have been without dwelling way too much on it.
Yeah. It
So
sounds like one of those things that kids should definitely be being taught at school.
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And I do believe that. I don't work with children.
No.
But I do remember that, just tell you this little story. When I was a child, my mum and my dad, our parents, were very forward-thinking in the country. I was brought up in Hungary. It wasn't a very forward-thinking country whatsoever. It's a little bit behind in many different aspects of life. But my parents were forward-thinking, and when we were children, we were about 8 or 9. They signed us up to this course. Well, they did the adult course first, and then they signed up us as children to this course called Silver Method Mind Control. So from a very, very early age, they taught us how to be in control of our own minds and how to have a can-do attitude and a brighter, positive outlook on life in general. So I had 30 years in being in charge of my own mind, on and off, obviously. I'm a human being. I have ups and downs and all that as well. But what I now find, now that I'm doing NLP, is that many things that we do in NLP are based on all that.
Yeah.
Based on how we can control our own minds. So I know from experience that having had these tools at a very, very young age, it gives such an amazing foundation for myself, for my sister, for my twin brother, and all three of us, as well as our parents. So, now all three of us are business owners, and we are all have a thriving business because we had this mindset we could actually go forward and achieve whatever we wanted to achieve in life.
That is so interesting. Do you think that was the initial spark that led you down the path of wanting to work with the brain, with the mind, when you went on to study?
I haven't a clue, Vicky. If I'm completely honest with you, I do not know. I can't pinpoint that moment Exactly. What I do know is from a very young age, and it may have been since that time, I always relied on my intuition, and I very much trust my gut, if you like, or trust my subconscious mind. That's, for me, that's your gut talking to you through your subconscious mind talking through your gut to you and tells you everything, what is right and what is wrong for you. So I've always had this very, very strong gut feeling and always knew when something was a good fit or where something wasn't. Whether I acted up on that or not, that's a very different question. We all need to grow and mature. Most of the time when I like when I started this neuro-rehabilitation process, I did not have a clue what the Pet Institute was all about. I knew that they were disabled kids, and that's it. We were going to have them. So I didn't have a clue. Got accepted to university after a long process, and then when I went into practical, the first day I stepped into the group, I felt that I arrived home. And I didn't know what it was, but I had this very strong drive, which I listened to. And then it was the same when I started working in Birmingham, then when I started working in Fareham at the Rainbow Centre, and then when I found Neuro-Linguistic Programming, I felt that I arrived home. And these are the bits that we need to listen to. We need to be in tune with our subconscious telling us that, this is actually right for you, do it. Or, don't, definitely don't do it.
Yeah. There's a reason it's talking. Now, you had the door open to that when you were very young, which is fantastic because it means you've had that for your, almost your entire life. Now, if people are thinking, I have never thought about this before, my brain has its patterns and it's had it for years and years and years, decades, it's too late for me. I feel like that's probably not going to be the case.
You are absolutely right, Vicki. It's not the case whatsoever. And yes, this is when our brain comes into play and how amazing that is. So, up to a few decades ago, people believed that the brain did not change after childhood. It was hardwired, and this is how it was, and it wasn't going to change whatsoever. And then we had loads of research, researching the mind and the brain in particular. And this is where professors and neuroscientists found that the brain does, in fact, change throughout your whole life. It does, and it will. We can't actually stop it. That's inevitable that it will change as we go through our life. And this is what we call neuroplasticity that I mentioned before. That's your brain's ability to rewire itself. It never stops. It might slow down a little bit. It might take a little bit more effort as we get older, as we get set in our old ways, but it does never stop. I mean, the oldest person that I worked with in conductive education, which is a method based on neuroplasticity, was 93 and had Parkinson's. And if he could change, I believe that we can as well. Can't we?
Definitely. That is fantastic. And perhaps you could give an example that we could relate to about something very simple, maybe perhaps some of the language, because I definitely get a lot of experience with, excuses for things, or I can't do this. And you see the sort of language I'm suggesting. I feel like that's a very good place perhaps to identify and use as an example of that can be something that we can change with using NLP.
Absolutely. And this can be NLP, it can be self-awareness, it can be choosing our words wisely. So if you don't mind, could I just give a little bit of background about the theory of how we work as human beings? So when it comes to you defining your life and you defining your destiny, essentially you can be at two places. You can either be at the cause of things that are happening to you, or you can be at the effect of everything that's happening to you.
Yeah.
Now, an awful lot of people spend an awful lot of their time perceiving, watch my language, perceiving that they are at the effect of everything that's happening to them. And this is exactly where we start blaming others, or external factors, where we start coming up with excuses or reasons why we cannot succeed. This is where we always ask the question, oh, why is it happening to me? Why am I in this situation? Why me? Why me? This is where you made a decision already that it doesn't matter, I'm going to be the victim. You can call it victim mentality if you like. I cannot succeed. And this is something that we can detect in someone's language, all those examples that you've given.
Yeah.
Now we know that things are happening to all of us, good things and bad things as well. And this is just a fact of life. We can't control everything. We also don't have to be at the effect of everything that's happening to us. Because there is the flip side of that, which is when we come back to cause. Because we know that it all starts and finishes with you. And whatever you put your mind to will happen, whether it's good or whether it's bad. This is where you decide that no matter what, I know I can't control everything around me, but I am going to control whatever I can. And that is within. You can always, always control your reactions or responses to whatever is happening from the outside world. So this is where we take responsibility, we take charge, we take control of what we can. This is where we start asking a different question. It's not about why me, why me. The question is, what can I do to make it work? How can I make it work for me today? What is the next step? Very, very different questions. This is when you know that there is no failure, only feedback. You can either succeed or learn. You have this can-do attitude, that can-do mindset. So that's the difference. And the question is, what do you think, Vicki? Where is a better, which one is a better place to spend your time with, or time in?
Most definitely, you want to be learning. You want to be learning and moving forward and growing and seeing things as opportunities. And even though not everything is nice or fun, and things may not seem at them, even in the moment, you might think, God, I can't see the positive necessarily in this. But it's more about finding that there is something that can help you in the future, because you're going to have learned how to deal with it.
It's exactly that. And you just said it very, very correctly, that we can't always be at cause. The best thing is to learn and to be at cause and take responsibility and all that. And we can't spend 100% of our time there. And that's okay. I mean, I can't. If you know how to, please teach me, because, I haven't a clue, even though I have all the tools in the world. Sometimes we do fall back to a fact. Sometimes we do say, oh, I don't have time. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I don't know how to do these exercises. Oh, these are hard. Yes, they are hard. We know that. That's not the question. And that's okay to fall back there. But what we want to do is we want to then say that, okay, that was enough. I had my pity party. I had my why. I had my blaming. Now I'm going to come back to cause, and I'm going to start asking different questions. What can I do to make it work? Yeah. And that's what NLP does. NLP brings you back from the effect to cause, so you can take charge of your own mind. And going back to your question, where does it start? It starts with your language, doesn't it? And this is when you need to start using something that we call reframing, which is an absolutely fabulous tool. So instead of saying that, oh, this is too hard, I don't know how to do this, all these things, oh, my body can't do this. And then you start reframing it and say that, yeah, it is hard, very true, let's acknowledge it.
Yep.
And I'm working towards it. And I'm getting better each and every day. And I'm getting stronger with every exercise that I do. I'm getting fitter, I feel better. So instead of saying that, oh, I don't want to be a couch potato, say, every step that I take is going to get me closer to my aim. Have this forward-looking outcome, something that you're moving towards as opposed to away from.
Yeah, and about what you're achieving rather than what you're not as well. Because I think there's so often, let's use exercise as an excuse. Oh, I have to go and work out. You get to work out. I mean, there are so many people that physically cannot do the things that we get to do, and that is an opportunity. And that's not to say you really want to do it. You really might not be that bothered, and it can be quite uncomfortable whilst it's happening. That's all true, but you do get to do it. And even more importantly, you get the benefits of it. So there is always something, or I should say, a way of reframing it, that you can speak to yourself in a positive way. Because if you keep telling yourself that, oh, I have to work out, oh, I hate this, oh, this is, everything's very negative, well, your body listens to that. So even if you don't truly, truly believe it, but if you start to speak more positively about it, the association with those things that you're trying to achieve is going to be better. And I wonder if I could ask you, put you on the spot a little bit, but I was thinking, so often the case, one of the hardest things for people to achieve is consistency and to stick with something. And I think a lot of people's narrative can be, and again, I'll use perhaps nutrition and exercise as an example, but just generally sort of healthy habits. Healthy habits is a massive focus of what I try and help people to achieve. And it's the whole ebb and flow of life where, okay, I'm motivated, I'm going to do it. You do it really well. Then it just stops and you don't do any of it for a while. And then you get back on it. Like it's that whole yo-yo up and down. We've all been there. And some people, I think, are really stuck in it. And it's almost, their identity is almost accepting that that's what's going to happen. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. It's not about perfection, but it's about consistency in the long term. And I feel like some of that comes down to needing to rewire and reframe things to actually allow yourself to change, to do it differently, and that you don't have to keep going over that same cycle. Whereas I think some people are almost waiting for that next bit of the cycle to come.
Absolutely, you are absolutely right. Many people struggle with it, whether it is about their fitness or any other habits that they would like to build. And you touched on a really important point. The problem is that when we have this first oomph, this first motivation, this first drive, we overwhelm ourselves. We give way too much pressure, expectations to ourselves. Yeah. So we won't be able to sustain it long term, will we? So we try to run before we can walk. And this is where, again, neuroplasticity comes into place. We need to build those neural pathways of the good habit first. And that comes with shorter, even, but repeated and directed attention to what we would like to have happen. So, what I tend to say to my clients is that when they are trying to build up a new habit, build the habit first and then fill in the gaps. So for instance, and this is what I love about your online club as well, is that you have several opportunities to do something. Why not start with that and say that, okay, this week I'm going to do 3 times a week, 5 minutes. I will either get online to listen to Vicki's fantastic guidance of how to do things, or I'm going to go to the gym. Whatever that will be, I'm going to get there and I'm going to spend 5 minutes there. It's not about what you are doing in the gym. It's not about whether you do the half an hour workout. It's about building up the habit. Building up the habit of you coming home from work, get changed, go out there, be there, and then come back. Even if you do one exercise, even if you do 2 exercises, it doesn't matter. Obviously, we know that the appetite comes with eating. So once you are there, you will want to do more. But again, we need to be very mindful not to overwhelm ourselves. Do a couple of exercises, then go home. But do this regularly for weeks. And once that habit of coming home, getting changed, getting there in front of the computer or going to the gym, and then going home, once the habit is established, you can fill in the gaps. And then you're not just doing 2 exercises, but you do a 15 minutes one, or you do the half an hour one, or you do an hour one, whatever that will be. But the habit is already established. You already carved out those neural pathways in your brain and you're using them. This is it. And then, of course, there are the elements of limiting beliefs and the way how we think about ourselves and the stories that we tell ourselves in between, the mind bit that we could talk about as well for ages. But if you want to really bring it down to habits, building new habits, that's the trick. That's the key. Consistency and making sure that it is sustainable. We can get down to the gym for 5 minutes. We can get down on the yoga mat for 5 minutes. We can put a 5 minutes video on and watch it and do a bit of, rope jumping or whatever that will be. We can do little bits. If it is a half an hour workout, then your brain is going to go, it's too hard. I don't have time for it today. Yeah. For 5 minutes, you don't have an excuse.
Exactly.
You can actually go there and just do it. Build those neural pathways and then fill in the gaps later.
It's so important because you're absolutely right. So many people be like, okay, if I don't do an hour, it's not worth it.
Oh God!
But doing something is always better than nothing. And actually, a lot of people, unless when it becomes a big part of your lifestyle and you really are someone that just wants to go and do this, that, and the other, and it's like, it becomes a non-negotiable. But realistically, we all have many, many things we want to do with our life, and sometimes it's to sit and do nothing, and that is all good. But there are things we know that we should be doing, and therefore doing 5 minutes really is better than doing nothing, because moving our body has such a positive impact on our mind and then our energy levels and all of those things that actually help the rest of the day do better and have a better day. But that is not going to happen if you're trying to always carve out an hour. It works for the smallest amount of people who will it will plan in, it will be done, but it's not realistic. It's not realistic for most people. And actually, if you think about lots of little few minutes of time here and there over a week and add it up, you've probably got your 1 or 2 hours once you've made a start, but it just wasn't in one big block.
And that's it. And then your body got that regular input, didn't it? You got your heart rate up a little bit. You got some activity going. You've got the blood flowing in your body. You've got some oxygen distribution throughout your body. You're already activating your cells. Not just your internal organs, but your skin as well, and your brain. I mean, you created some, or I don't know, increased the production of dopamine and endorphin and serotonin and I don't know, all the happy hormones that you would need. So therefore you reduce all the cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. So we can replace that with all the good hormones, can't we? And that comes in one way of bringing that in, that comes through exercise.
Yeah.
But
I think the interesting thing is, and exercise is a good example of it, but actually I think it applies to most things. If we have never done something or we haven't done something for a long time, it actually takes quite a lot of effort because it's quite uncomfortable and actually it doesn't necessarily feel that good. And not everyone gets the big rush afterwards. They're going to feel pleased that they did it. And therefore, you are trying to convince yourself to start doing something that makes you feel more uncomfortable than you currently are. That is why it's so difficult. It's worth it because you really will feel better afterwards. But we like to do easy things. Humans will always take the easy option, which is why I think when it comes to the habits, it's trying to allow it to become as easy as possible. And if there's things you want to try and stop, you need to make them more difficult, because if that is the easy option, that's what you're going to go for, because that's what we're designed to be.
Absolutely. And this is when you want to make it, as you said, want to make it as easy as you can. And once you've done that 5 minutes, even just walking around the block, a little bit of activity, first of all, you need to praise yourself for that. You need to teach your brain that it's actually good for me. I was ready for it. It makes me feel good. I've achieved something, even if it's just 5 minutes. And then, because you did that 5 minutes regularly, your body is actually building up to the next step. And then you will be able to go for 10 minutes. And then you will be able to perhaps jog a little bit. And then you will be able... So this is the whole from couch to 5K sort of mentality, isn't it? It's doing things little by little, but often. It's consistency, isn't it? It's about building up our, not just our body, but our mind to it as well. Teach your brain, rewire your brain, teach it, train it that it is good for you. And as you said, if you overwhelm yourself with stuff that's too heavy, too much, and you have muscle sore at the end of it, yes, it can be good as well, but not at the beginning. You're not going to go back. No. Who would like to punish themselves like that?
Exactly.
So why not start small and build it up consistently?
So much more manageable. And then also, I think the joy is it starts to, you realize those first things that felt really difficult to just make yourself start and do. You think, oh, that's not so bad now. I don't mind getting started. It's that next bit that's hard. And then you realize you're building up. I mean, you are literally building up your fitness and your strength and your flexibility and all those things, but actually you're building up your mental resilience and ability to be able to keep doing those things. And then that bit becomes easier.
That's right. Yes. I'm glad we are on the same page. What a surprise, Vicki.
Definitely the same page. And it's a big book.
Very big book.
So I love asking people this question. It's always puts people on the spot, so I hope you can think of things. Are there any common myths to do with NLP and everything that you do that you would like to debunk?
Oh, there are many.
Excellent.
There are many different ones. One of it, there is this negative connotation that's linked to the name of NLP, and that comes from the past when it was mainly used by, I don't know, by politicians and salespeople. I think I mentioned that earlier. And it appears that people used it for manipulation. Which, whether you agree with that or not, that's a very different question. The way how I see NLP is because it is the user guide to the brain, and it shows you how to communicate with others and with yourself as well. Of course, you will be able to use those techniques for manipulation if you choose to. But what is important, very important for me and for fellow practitioners out there, is to make sure that it is used ethically, that it is used for influencing something in a positive way. Now, what is really important for us to understand here, and this is where the whole misconception is going to fall apart, is that our subconscious mind is there to protect us, is there to serve us, to protect us, to preserve your body, your mind, and your soul. It will not allow you to do anything that you are not ready for with the information and resources you have available at the time, right? So nobody can actually manipulate you into anything, but you can change the way how you think. You can ask different questions. You can get your critical thinking out and question whatever those politicians or salespeople say. So you're not allowing them to manipulate you into it. This is where we go back to the cause and effect, don't we? You can be at the effect of all those people and say, oh, NLP is bad because those people used it. Or you can say that, hang on, yeah, I may have been fooled once, but what can I do, coming back to cause, what can I do to make sure it doesn't happen again? Well, you can start thinking differently. You can start learning about these sort of techniques. You can start questioning what other people say. And this is where NLP becomes really powerful, because it gives you those tools as well.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because my initial thinking of it is always it's about ourselves. Like it's about exploring and developing how and why and the patterns that we have. So actually, that's a really interesting myth that you've debunked, because I had never flipped it round in the way of people using it on others. I had just thought of how useful it would be to have it for yourself and a greater understanding of yourself.
And yes, that is very true. That's another misconception. The people think that NLP is something you do to others. No, it isn't. It absolutely isn't. First of all, you can't do anything to others. You can do something with others. You can have them to positively influence their life. And then there is that side that you are mentioning, is that because it is an attitude, because it's a way of being, a way of living, a way of looking at life, it does become a fantastic personal growth, self-development tool and mentality. And this is what I love most about NLP, that it changed my life. It changed the way how I see the world. It changed the way how I see myself. It taught me how to question my limitations and not take them for granted. It taught me how to question everything, the way how I use language, the way how I use, for instance, the word but. Just give you an example. You did ask for some language patterns earlier. We tend to say things like, oh, yes, it's lovely and sunny today, but tomorrow is going to rain.
Yeah, so true.
What we do with that word but is we basically delete everything that was said before, and we put ourselves in a horrible state of mind. So a very, very easy tweak there is, instead of using the word but, why not change it to and? So you say, it is beautiful and sunny today, and tomorrow it's going to rain. How does that sound different?
Wow. It's so different. It's the most simple switch, but I completely get the example that you're giving. It makes complete sense. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm going
doesn't
to
it?
catch myself saying but now all the time, aren't I?
Really good one. So I personally deleted the word but from my dictionary a few years ago, and since then, because I'm not deleting all the good things that I said previously.
No.
Since then, my life has changed a lot. It took me consistency. It took me a lot of catching myself and be kind to myself when I caught myself using the word but, instead of whipping my own back. Oh, you said it again. Saying that, oh, hang on, this is something to learn from. This is something to reframe. So how do I say it differently? Yeah, this task is really, really hard for me, or this exercise is really hard for me, and I am learning new skills and I'm challenging myself. And this is where you can reframe everything. Instead of saying, yes, it's very difficult, but you can do it, then you basically dismiss the difficult bit. Let's acknowledge that it is difficult, because then you can say that I achieved it. It was difficult, yes, and I've achieved it. Yeah, very different mindset. And these little tweaks that you can use with yourself and with others. Or something that I hear you use all the time is saying that I can't, we say a lot, I can't do this exercise. And then Vicky says, Vanda says, yet. We are not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I am working on it. I'm working towards it. I'm getting stronger every day. It leaves you room for a positive ending, for a forward-looking way of going through your life, basically. So yes, NLP is just so many folds. And what is great about it is it's not a do it two or do it once kind of thing. When you get your NLP practitioner certification, either for your personal development or professional development, doesn't matter how you want to use it, that certification isn't a license to stop. No. It's a license to start.
The beginning.
Start exploring life. Exactly. Go there and enjoy that transformation that you go through.
I love it. That's going to be the one. That's going to be the one. I'm going to see how often I say it. Are there any other myths you'd like to touch on, or are you happy with the ones that you've?
Oh, there are so many. So many. I think let's go with that one. I think I sort of touched on it already. But what another misconception, we already said it, is that people think, again, that they can't change. This is just who I am. Well, that's just the worst thing you can ever tell yourself. This is called a limiting belief.
Yeah.
And if you tell yourself that this is just who you are, oh, I don't exercise, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
Oh, I am always late, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
Oh, I never tidy up, this is just who I am. Then you will be.
Yeah.
As you said earlier as well, our body, all our atoms and every little part of our body is eavesdropping on everything that we say to ourselves. And it will make it happen. Your subconscious is there to make those links and connections and make sure that your body responds to what you are telling it to do.
Yeah.
Basically, with every word that we use, those are direct instructions to our subconscious mind to make it happen. So if you keep telling yourself that this is just who I am after a negative statement, then you will be. Believe me. Again, going back to whatever you put your mind to will happen. And it's not only true to all the positive and great stuff.
Yeah, most definitely.
True for the negative ones as well. And this is when we need to be very mindful. Your words do matter. There you go. That's the misconception. People think that I can just say things jokingly.
Yeah.
You are still saying it, and your subconscious can't distinguish between it being a joke or it being real.
Yeah.
So cancel, delete it, and reframe it. Say something different. I may not have been ready for this yet, and now I am working towards it.
Yeah, I love it. And also the fact that our identity, I think some people have very strong identities, but we are constantly evolving, and we have to let ourselves do that, because if we're not, it means we're not growing.
Very true.
We've got a whole lifetime to grow. Why would we want to limit ourselves?
Exactly. And this is when, your identity will be really important, and also your identity and who you are and why you do what you do will be driven by your values and your beliefs. And those values and beliefs can be absolutely amazing and empowering and help you to get to wherever you want to be. And they can also be limiting. They can stop you from becoming who you want to be. They can stop that progress that you're talking about, that constant learning, growing, developing, changing.
Yeah.
So why should we let it?
Exactly. We don't need to. What would you say, what is your biggest challenge when you're trying to help people and educate people in the tour guide to their minds?
I think the biggest challenge for me personally and professionally was to understand, and that isn't just about my NLP career. It's about the neuro-rehab stuff and everything. When you work with people, there is also the human element. So my biggest challenge was to understand that I can't help everybody.
Yeah.
And that is really, really important. You can only have people, and you will know it yourself, you can only have people who want help and who want to make a change. So for instance, my main criteria, and it's all over my website and everywhere else as well, and this is a promise I made to myself when I started out to do this business, is that I will only try, even give a go to helping people who are committed to making a change. Because otherwise, don't come to me, and I'm not going to take your money when I know it's not going to work because you put your mind to it not working.
Yeah.
So let's not waste each other's time and each other's energy. Come back to me when you are ready. Yeah. So that, I think this was the biggest one, the biggest lesson really that I learned throughout the years. And now I'm very, very confident with it. So I've made a decision that yes, there are so many people I could help, and there are so many people who don't want that help. And that's okay. I'm focusing my limited time and energy, because there's two things that we have limited of your life, isn't it? So I have limited time and energy, and I am going to focus it on the people who actually want my help and who appreciate it, who want to change. And there I can help.
Exactly. You can really get into your power, can't you? So one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what inspires you?
I that's a very good question. There are loads of people, loads of things that inspire me. Oh, I have to think about that one. So I am a big believer of lifelong learning, and I love changing and I love evolving. And when I look through my life of 38 years, I do feel that I constantly grew and evolved. And I love to give that to other people as well. this is that really inspires me when I see other people taking on those learnings that I have in my past as well, and my present, and really in my future, and seeing people changing, seeing people having those light bulb moments that, oh, it doesn't have to be the way how it used to be. I can change anything and everything, and it can be that easy, because it can be that easy once you understand how. And that really inspires me when I see those people going out there, living their life, living a happy life, the one that they deserve, and spreading the news to others as well. Yeah, I think that's, for me, is the most inspirational bit. Yeah, growing, seeing people grow. I love that.
I love that too. That's great. And you know what? If people want to sort of leave this podcast, what could they take home? What could they try and do for themselves today? What would you say that's the one thing you could have a little go at? What tool would be the most accessible?
I think from what we've talked about, this whole cause and effect thing is the basis of everything. So if you just start with looking inside and being honest with yourself, am I at the cause of things that are happening, or am I at the effect of everything that's happening to me? And take responsibility for it. And say if you are at the effect, if you want to be there, all good and well. You know, it's your choice, your decision, your life. But then take responsibility for it and say that you're happy there. Or start asking different questions. Yep, this is what's happening around me. What can I do today to make a change, to make it work, to get going, to do that exercise, to get fitter, to whatever that will be? I think this is the one. And then you can start with the reframing and thinking differently about it.
Have awareness.
It's that.
Awareness, yeah. It's true, because if you haven't got the awareness, you don't actually know what you're trying to change.
That's right. And after you have the awareness, you can make different decisions, can't you? You can also undecide all decisions. You can undecide being at the effect of things and decide that you're going to be at cause, and you are going to make it work no matter what. If it starts with 5 minutes, as we said, it starts with 5 minutes. It will build up to an hour.
Love that. So just as I start to draw this to a close, and you may even say it's what we just said, but I'd like to give you the floor. And if you could just share one thing that you think everyone would benefit from knowing, what would it be?
I believe it is the power of your brain. It's the power of your brain. It's the fact that neuroplasticity is there, and we can't really change that. It will be there for every single one of us, whether we take little end steps or we can, I don't know, take huge leaps and jump forward and run forward. Our brain can change. Even the only thing that's inevitable in this life is change. Even if you want to keep things the same, you're going to have to change something in order to keep it the same. So you have to change. We all change, we all evolve, and that's your brain. Your brain is doing that for you. Now you can decide whether you just let it happen the way how it does, run on autopilot, or you can decide to take charge of it and make that change happen the way how you want it to happen.
Thank you. So where can the listeners find you? Where's the best place to find you on the internet if they'd like to get in touch and find out a little bit more about what you do?
Ooh, there are loads of information on my website, which is vandavarga.co.uk, and I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. They can find me at Vanda NLP with Vanda.
Wonderful. I will put all the links in the show notes. But thank you so much. I knew I was going to love this conversation, but I loved it even more than I thought I was going to. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Vicki. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the LiveFitNow podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. I would love to hear from you, so don't forget you can get in touch through social media, clicking through the links in the show notes, or email me directly, hello@livefitnow.co.uk. Until the next time.